when action is anticipated. At any time, written comments may be sent to jenny.sims@bremertonlaw.gov or by snail mail to 345 6th Street, Suite 100, Bremerton, Washington, 98337. Okay, so our first item of on the agenda is the February 24th, 2025 meeting minutes. Are there any changes or corrections to the minutes? You do?
No,
Okay.
said I have none.
Okay. Seeing none, the meeting minutes are approved as presented. Next, under item 3, Auditor Jenny Sims will provide an update on the communications and outreach cost comparison. Please go ahead, Auditor Sims.
Okay, so we're currently reviewing about 200 contracts that appeared possible as having outreach component to it. It looks like the number is close to about 30 of those 100, or right now it's 186 contracts. So far we've counted about 30 that outreach in it. So we're going through those. We're summarizing the hours and the cost and the level of the consultant that's doing the work and what they're doing so that we can then have someone from Public Works and DCD identify which of those tasks could be performed by a communications type person, rather than someone that had technical expertise of, say, transportation or something. But
water management or whatever. Yeah.
right. Someone that's more of a generalist could have performed these duties. So that's what we're working on. We also obtained job descriptions for communications managers or communications technicians. I forget all of their titles, but we got some job descriptions, about a dozen of them, from local jurisdictions, so that the city can consider how they might utilize this person. And we also obtained salary ranges for those same dozen cities, their communications person, so that we know, roughly what the range would be for the theoretical person that might be employed by the city in this capacity. So that's where we are. I mean, we still have to finish going through the contracts and then develop the analysis, but it's kind of sketched out at this point.
Cool.
So I would say that the project is going well.
Nice.
Questions?
No, I have none.
Marwan?
Sounds great.
Sounds like everything is going well.
Yeah, it does.
Rosalind, please go ahead. Thank you, Marwan.
I'm just curious what types, I don't know if you said it, maybe you did and I just didn't hear it. What types of comparators do you look for? You said you'd compared yourself to a few other cities. What is it that you're looking for when you look for those comparators?
Looking for communications managers. I forget what the other titles are. Some of them appear to be a step below a manager. Some of them might be a step above, it's communication director. And then the job titles, and just, it's my understanding that that's probably one of the better fit positions. If anyone has a suggestion of something else that I should be looking at, I'm happy to do that, but that is where I'm focusing.
Are the cities comparable in size to us, or are these just cities in general that have these job descriptions? Present?
I tried to pick, hang on a second. I tried to pick similar cities, but not just based on size. So
Right.
Bainbridge Island, because it's nearby, it's in our vicinity. Bellingham, I think that they are, well, they're twice as large as we are, but I think they're a similar city in some respects. Bothell,
Sure. Yeah.
comparable size, 50,000 versus our 45. Burien, 53,000 population. Edmonds, slightly,
Nice.
slightly, our Federal Way, a couple, twice as big as us. Issaquah, Kennewick, Kent, Kirkland, Lakewood, Linwood, Marysville, Olympia. I looked at
Oh, wow.
Port Orchard and Poulsbo. They're both quite a bit smaller than us, and they don't have anyone. So, but anyway.
Okay. Cool.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks.
Is Jennifer, have we heard from, no, Counselor Chamberlain? No, and I'm checking to see if she jumps on. So I guess I'd like to add that both Director Spencer of DCD and Director Nucky of Public Works, when this was brought up during council retreat in 2024, were very vocal in their opposition to a communications manager, and very both stated that no one could possibly have, that only someone with their particular expertise or their level of expertise could communicate with the public. Another counselor brought up the fact that, in fact, many cities do this. Seattle, of course, the behemoth, has,
Multiple.
multiple, yeah. They probably have a communications director about, I don't know what. So I guess I would say that please take that into consideration, because they're already on record stating that there is no need for a communications manager, and that it would be not pointless, but they used forceful language in their opposition to this. And I would say that, for example, the utility land management comprehensive plan update that was presented on April 9th to a study session by Sean Welsh, Forestry Division Manager. I believe that's his title. He's our forester. There was a, out of a, I think, $200,000 contract, $38,000 was set aside for outreach. And the outreach for that meeting consisted of, if people tuned in to BCAT and watched the study session, that he would accept their comments. And this isn't a private conversation I had with this, right? That was the level of outreach that they were using. So I guess now that I've said all of that, I'm pretty astounded that you're plowing through so many contracts, Jenny. Holy mackerel. Do you have like, when you say that something is sketched out, can you translate that for somebody like me that doesn't know what it means?
Well, I don't want to present any numbers, but I've gone through the cost and the hours of the consultants, so that comes up with an hourly rate. It also will help develop the, how many hours we might expect a communications, let's just call it a manager at this point. How many hours you might expect this communications manager to have to work, or to replace the consultants in order to justify the salary. So coming up with the hours that we've used the consultants for this type of work, and then coming up with the salary range, not just the salary, but the benefits are very expensive. So salary plus benefits, what it would cost the city to have someone on staff that's doing this work. And then ultimately comparing those two things, or coming up with how many hours they would have to work consistently each year in order to justify the expense. Preliminarily, it appears that the usage of the consultants for this type of work may have increased substantially in recent times. So again, it's preliminary, but it looks like, for example, on the 2024 Transportation Comprehensive Plan, I think we had over 700 hours of outreach. And in 2004, when we had this transportation comp plan done, we had about 120 hours. So I just looked at that today. I'm not going back to 2004. I simply went to this contract in 2004 because I thought, oh, it looks like we're using more hours lately. Let me go to a contract that had the same project, but 20 years earlier. And how did we do this? So I don't know what the explanation is for that. Does the city want to be using 700 hours for outreach? I don't know. I don't know how it came about.
That seems like
Has the definition of outreach changed, perhaps? Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know if I don't have the answer yet. Like I say, everything's preliminary. I haven't dug into it. I haven't had a chance to ask about it yet. I'm trying to collect all the data and then pose my questions. I started off with the interview at the beginning, but now I'm just trying to collect data, and then I'll go back to either the directors or someone just below them to ask some questions.
Deborah, I don't want to interrupt you again. Did you have something for this?
No, that's like 3.5. That's 4 months, over 4 months of 40 hours a week. Right? That seems like a lot. And the only other thing I was going to say about this is I wonder if in 2020 the city managed some of that in-house.
2004 versus 2024?
Yes. Yeah, 2004, 20 years ago. I think. The city may have. Who knows? Because I don't remember. I remember the comp plan then, but I don't remember much about how it was managed.
Have grant requirements for outreach changed in any way?
I'll ask that question.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
Okay. Because I know that it's become much more of a staple for funding requests that outreach be performed, community outreach.
Yeah.
Oh, it is? So it's actually a grant requirement.
It's what drives a lot of it, yeah.
My question is, how is it being measured? Well, what's the efficacy? Are more people responding to postcards? Or BCAT town halls? Like, what's being done different? And how are we looking at that?
Yeah. How effective are they, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, for example, for the transportation plan, I know at least 5 employees of Public Works were present at numerous meetings, and that they also had about 5 Public Works employees who attended a couple of First Fridays and similar community events.
Wonderful.
So,
Marwan, if I can paraphrase you though, maybe the question, I think the question you were asking is how is that contract? How are the 700 hours in that contract? What's the effectiveness of that? Mm-hmm. Right? Yes. Was that your question? Are we measuring effectiveness of those 700 hours we paid for? Right? Public Works employees, thank you very much for their dedication and showing up at community events and stuff. But what did we pay for? And was it an effective use of our money and the consultant's time?
Well, I mean, this was the reason I started thinking about this.
Down this path, yeah.
Out of, I think, a $500,000, 125, and I believe I'm right on this, were dedicated to outreach.
Yeah.
But as to assessment, that's always the last thing on anybody's mind.
Right.
You know, you do it and then you don't want to ask, did it work?
Did we get the bang for the buck that we were looking for?
So a really valuable question. Fortunately, Jenny, this is not supposed to add to your workload.
No.
But I think it's a question that I would like to bring back to council.
Yep.
And I'm sorry that Jennifer Chamberlain is not here to bounce this off of.
Well, again, those numbers are preliminary, so I just keep that in mind. Don't
Yeah.
When you present the information, make sure it's presented that, you know, there's preliminary numbers we're showing this, so that I don't get held to anything.
You're not going to get in trouble.
Sorry.
No, preliminary.
Okay, thank you.
Tentative draft.
Yeah.
Very drafty draft.
But that is a lot of money, the 125,000, you know.
That's big bucks. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
But
real
again,
money.
it doesn't appear consistent that occurs. There were 4 pretty big outreach contracts with fairly significant outreach component. The Warren Avenue Bridge, the pedestrian. I forget the exact name of the contract.
Multimodal.
I think that one was about $72,000. Again, to me, that's a big number for outreach.
That is big.
Yeah,
I actually remember that outreach.
and a lot of that outreach could perhaps be attributed to Josh Farley because wasn't that contract modified to increase the outreach since they got much more a much larger response than they had expected.
Oh, possibly, yeah. That and Safe Streets Bremerton. I mean, they were all over that too. There was a lot of community engagement with.
Is that
with
what you see at the open houses? I mean, I haven't been to an open house. You know, I wish there was like a recording that I could see.
There are easels propped around the room.
How many-
Graphics are up on the easels. People with like a name tag saying, you know, I'm from Public Works or occasionally I'm from the consultant are standing around to explain these graphics, which are often, even for me, rather difficult to follow. So
How many
that is
people
what.
how many people are coming through? I mean, that's
Cycling Club is there, and some other street smart people. It's a very well organized community, and at the same time, I would say that it's a community that represents many more people. I have quite a few neighbors who wouldn't show up at an open house like this, but will want to hear from representatives who did attend. Yeah. Is that making sense?
Mhm.
Yeah, because really, if you're on a bike going up against a Ford F-350, you want somebody in your corner.
Well, and the Safe Streets Bremerton folks report back to a broader community.
Yeah.
And that reporting back is done in a number of different social media forums. So they have much broader and further engagement.
Yeah.
And some of these topics get dozens and dozens of comments, if not hundreds.
Yeah.
Sometimes. So I think, you know, like I said, I don't know if it's in spite of or because of the outreach. Sometimes the comments seem to be, why didn't we get to weigh in on that? Right? So it's interesting.
Well, I'm sorry, am I interrupting someone else who wants to speak? In another context at council, the outreach ad hoc met, and we're developing an outreach policy. So I'll be sitting yeah, I'll be sitting down with Ginny Briggs, our community engagement manager. There we go. To make sure that we are on the same page with types of outreach. One example of this, for instance, would be that any stakeholder group would have a one-to-one ratio of community members to staff and consultants who attend the meetings. Yeah. So that, for example, many people along Naval Avenue were quite surprised that there was a whole multimodal project in the works. And that's been going on since 2018, my recollection. But
Now it's visible.
yeah. So having community members as stakeholders earlier on made sense, and the one-to-one ratio follows, for example, what we have here on the audit committee, what the tree committee uses. Public Works says that it's a very normal ratio of community members to staff.
If you would find the job descriptions of the communications managers that I've collected, if you would find that helpful for design your policy, we're more than happy to share those with you, Anna.
It would be supercalifragilistically helpful, yes.
Okay. Christine will probably send those over to you. I think we have a dozen. You can pick which ones you want
Great.
to consider, but I would think that they might have some value for you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Does anyone have anything more on this topic? Okay. Then let us move on to the 2025 audit work plan.
I did have a question about the parking enforcement. Is that still in legal review?
Oh, can we wait on that?
Sure.
Oh, no,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, please go ahead, Deborah.
Yeah, it was noted in our minutes from the last meeting that it was still in legal review. I assume it's still there.
Yeah.
Okay, that was all. Okay, committee work plan.
It will help the committee. I can screen share the goals, the initiatives, and the work plan documents.
So I'll just, oh, go ahead, Christine, I'm sorry.
Do you want to share with me?
I'm gonna find this. I'm looking for the work plan.
So I mean, I'd even share that up.
So that would be great.
Yeah. You're looking for the work plan?
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm still looking.
So while you guys are looking, can I talk?
No, these are previous threads.
So
Yeah, go ahead.
Meeting minutes. Do you have a feel for when you sent the?
It's in the packet.
Friday. Here we go.
Right.
Here we go. I'm gonna try and do this right now. Oh, there we go. You should be able to see it on your screen.
Okay, I'm looking on Friday and I've got.
Council Colson's priority.
Right, but I mean,
You need the work
I'm looking
plan.
for the work.
Okay,
plan.
here we go. I'm scrolling. Here we go. Work plan.
And that was sent on Friday?
It's
All in the
the
packet.
packet.
All right, so I have it. I have it. Everyone, you should be able to see it on your screen right now.
Can you send it to me again, please, Christine?
Thank you.
The packet.
Because I have two things from Friday and neither contains the packet.
All right, are we ready to talk about this though? It's being displayed, so.
Yeah, I'm looking for the work plan. And
The work plan is
Oh, okay.
displayed.
great. Okay.
Take it away, Jenny.
Please go ahead, Jen.
Okay. So this is really provided, I mean, I take direction from the committee on what I'll be working on in the work plan. So oftentimes the projects tie in with council's goals and the mayor's initiatives. I have that, yes. So we provided those. It's possible that folks haven't had a chance to review them, but you know, I'm not ready for a new project anyway, but you know, come the next meeting, I'll probably be wanting to know what's next. So they're just for discussion purposes tonight. If you're ready to discuss them, if there's anything that jumps out at you, or Anna, I don't know if you had something else. You know, this is a time for us to discuss whether you want to add anything, modify the plan in any way. But it doesn't have to be tonight. Maybe you have questions about some of the initiatives, whether it fits, but it can always wait for our next meeting as well. It's just up to you guys, whatever you're prepared for.
I have to we're sending an email to come back and get that document again.
Yeah. Well, it strikes me that the second item on our list is cost benefit analysis for outreach, and under community and employee engagement, there's a developed community outreach policy. So I think those tie together rather nicely.
Well, right, but this would be someone who could carry out.
I get it, but I'm
Yeah.
just saying it supports that goal of council.
Correct. I agree.
And you kind of audit may have done a little work ahead of that again is supportive.
Yeah, I'm really happy about this.
Yeah, Deborah, go ahead.
Well, we did that analysis of multifamily homes and landlords. Or I was looking at the housing.
Landlord license compliance?
Yeah, landlord. I was looking at the housing equity piece, and since you're the only council person here, I gotta pick on you, Anna. Did anything ever come of that? Or did it just kind of, everybody go, oh, we don't need to worry about it?
We have sent it to DCD. They are addressing it with all relevant dispatch.
Okay. Whatever that. Yeah. It's, they're working on
To
it.
date, does everybody have the work plan so that we can look at you guys instead of just Jenny? Can we get gallery view at least?
I see everyone across the top of my screen. I don't know what you guys have.
Yeah, all we can do.
We can see you in the corner.
That's it.
I'm fine. I have the work plan up available. It's posted on my computer, so you can do whatever you need to do.
Marwan, do you have the work plan?
Yep, I'm good to go.
Okay,
so
great.
can we just
Go back to
stop sharing
gallery.
screen and
Sure.
great.
Okay.
Great. Okay, so the landlord license, everything that the auditor has to do with that is done.
Right.
It's the administration, it's the administration's role to do anything with that. It's the only item that I know of that we have taken relative to that is to establish relocation assistance as a required, if you want to legally evict someone, you have to be a registered landlord. And that also that we are offering relocation assistance, at least on city-owned properties, if inspection should reveal that it's, uninhabitable, according to the RCW that governs habitability.
Cool. Okay. I just was curious because I know we've done some work on that, and it obviously ties into housing equity.
Yeah. Where are you seeing housing equity? Oh,
on
okay.
your
Oh,
goals.
the goals
I'm looking at the work plan and the goals
Okay.
and seeing how they might be supportive of one another.
Yeah. Well, that's where we are with that.
Okay.
Yeah. The cost benefit analysis for parking enforcement, Jenny, haven't you completed? I mean, if it's with legal, is that not done as far as audit committee is concerned?
Yeah, it's kind of in a holding status, Anna. We can talk about it off record.
Okay. And the procurement policies, isn't that completed or is that ongoing?
No, that's never been ongoing, I know.
Yeah, good.
Well, there's a
I mean,
couple different procurement projects. One of them,
so I don't remember our discussing this, reviewing the city's procurement policy and the criteria.
okay, hang on a second. Let me see which one you're looking at.
It's the fourth one on the March 11th update.
I know at one point we had talked about like all policies and just a policy manual. And maybe we morphed that into a procurement because that was the thing we were really most concerned about after we realized that there was a whole list of policies out there.
Did you guys not receive that? Rosalind, you're muted, please.
No,
Okay.
I think we got those policies
Okay.
afterwards. But I'm wondering if that's where that one came from, that item came from.
Well, I think it came directly out of the parking thing when we realized that it just got renewed and didn't go out for any RFPs or anything. And so the question was, don't we have a policy about that?
Well,
That's my memory anyway.
yeah, I have no memory of it. I remember Jennifer Chamberlain asking about that, but I don't remember this committee deciding that this should go on our work plan. Christine?
Yeah.
I didn't hear Christine.
The previous member, I think there was discussion with the previous member. A number of years it's been on there.
Leslie? Okay,
It's been on the work plan for a long time.
okay. All right.
Anyway, Anna, I didn't know if you had an addition for the work plan.
I do,
Okay.
but I wanted to go through this.
Okay.
If that's okay with everyone else?
Yeah, can we take them kind of in order as how they're
That's what I was
presented?
trying to do.
Yeah, so we talked about number 4. What about number 3, the third one there, parking, third-party contract compliance parking?
How would the auditor test that?
If you read the description, we would assess if enforcement is following best practices compared to other vendors.
I think primarily you would find, you go to the contract and see certain requirements in the contract. Pick the ones that you think have a higher likelihood of perhaps not being complied with, and then test to see whether they are complying with it.
Just, I mean, I guess that's something that should be done, but aren't we under an obligation from the state to accept the lowest responsive bidder, whether they are following best practices or not?
Well, I think this is more about compliance. So if there's requirements in the contract that you have to provide certain reports or be checking the neighborhoods so many times a day. I don't remember what the
Exactly. If
terms are.
enforcement is equitable across all areas of potential enforcement, like,
Well, it's not whether it's
Are you-
equitable, it's whether they're following whatever the terms are of the contract.
Right.
but if the
Equitable would be-
contract calls for checking city streets for people who are, I'm just gonna, not that they could do this, but if the contract calls for checking city streets for people who are shipyard parkers in neighborhoods, and they only enforce in one neighborhood, that would indicate to me that there's more than one neighborhood where people park on the street.
Well, I think that the contract actually specifies, and there's a
Specifies.
map.
Yeah.
A map
Yep.
that says, okay, this is area A, this is area B, this is
Yep.
area B. And don't hold me to that, but I think there's something like that in the contract. So it's pretty well spelled out.
Yeah, so that would be one way to test is
Yes.
area B over enforced and area A under enforced.
I don't know that this is going to be a good good project at this time. Maybe it is, but Melinda's probably getting ready to go out for bid, I'm guessing, on this contract this summer because it expires, I think, at the end of the year. So
Right.
we'd be a little bit behind the ball because we want to finish at least this project that I'm working on first.
Yep,
I don't want to
Yep.
just walk away from it.
no.
Either
I'm not
So-
sure on the timing of it. It might not be good timing.
Okay,
there are so many contracts that could be reviewed for enforcement. But, okay, so, we've got we've covered 1, 2, and 3.
and 4,
And 4. Conducting cash counts, you're conducting cash counts.
it's normal.
Yeah. Look,
Business as
something
usual.
normal, something expected. So the watershed forest management practices review. I'd like to talk about that, but if anyone else would like to begin. So, in the utility land management comprehensive plan update that was presented on April 9th, the FCS, who is doing the financial analysis, is confining itself solely to determining what revenue would we get if we cut down all of the oldest trees in the forest, which are immediately adjacent to the reservoir on quite a steep slope. These 66-year-old trees are considered urgent because if they get much larger, sawmills will not be able to accept them. So FCS is comparing cutting all of our 66-year-old trees and different levels, including what we're doing now and cutting nothing. So they're purely looking at revenue that would come to the city from these different alternatives. So this watershed forest management practices review would be quite a different thing. Because we sort of put this on the back burner because I gave you wrong information, which was I understood that FCS would be doing this that's here in our work plan, but actually they're doing this other thing.
I don't think it's FCS, just because we're being recorded. I think it's that Mason, Bruce, and Gerard.
Yeah, Mason, Bruce, and Gerard are the contractors who are the consultants who have reviewed staffing levels and logging alternatives. FCS is deputed solely to determine the revenue.
Okay.
Like they're a subcon just for the revenue. And Mason, Bruce, Gerard did, and that's also the contract that has about 38,000 for outreach. It looked at a number of things.
So I'm not clear on what the ask of Jenny is.
The ask on this was, we are paying a number of staff to oversee clear cutting on our watershed, on our watershed and water utility lands, right? It makes up the bulk of many jobs. When this was last reviewed in 2019, Water Division Manager Cami Affleck, who was then also being the forester, stated that the net profit per year they calculated at around 150 or 160,000, if I remember correctly. So it's to just look at this and does it make sense to even log our watershed? So that was the genesis of this one. And here I'm just saying I'd like to keep this on the work plan. That's it.
So just to kind of clarify, it's to see if the calculation of the net profit appears like it's captured all of the expenses. I mean, the revenue piece is a little easier to pick up,
Right.
but you know,
Is there, you go ahead.
is it fully costed, I guess?
Yeah, and have they estimated or costed out what the environmental cost is to clear cutting a steep slope next to the reservoir? Because I would think that could add a lot of, well, I don't know, sediment and other things to our water supply that aren't currently there.
I asked about this on April 9th, because building a filtration plant would cost, I've heard figures 50 to 60 million,
Yeah.
plus
A lot.
$1 to $2 per year to maintain and operate. So yeah, at present, this particular goal seems the council goal of managing the watershed for water quality, not for revenue.
Yeah.
Seems to be holding steady. Does that make sense? So here I'm just arguing, after you, Jen.
I just want to make sure that that it's clear that a reminder that I'm an accountant and not an environmentalist. So measuring water quality and impacts of cutting forest that's near our water supply sounds insane. Out of my area of expertise, to be more precise, but you know, the costing portion is something I can look at, but when you get to the environmental piece, you have to recognize that's not me.
I guess the environmental stuff would fall under a risk management rubric, and there may be a way to assign some cost to that, I would think.
Well,
Maybe not. I hear what you're saying, Jenny, so I get it. Rosalind, do you have any thoughts on this?
I agree with Jenny that, you know, definitely the costing out aspect is something that the accountant should be managing. I don't think when we get into the environmental impacts, there may be cost implications, but I think you have to decide, are you looking at the environmental impact or are you looking at the accounting impact? And it's really one of the two that need to be determined here.
Got it.
And the other thing I am wondering is just from a timing perspective. We talked about it earlier in the year, and then you had another meeting in April where you got some clarity on it. What's the timing of when they're anticipating the removal of the trees?
yes,
Okay.
that's the answer I have for you.
What's the timing?
Okay.
We don't know. Any day now?
Oh, right. I mean, by the time we get to it, it could be too late to have the conversation about it. So I wonder.
Entirely possible.
Okay.
Yeah.
Fair
Um,
enough.
yeah, but this one is just, it's often people will do things like open a lemonade stand, right? Let's just do something really simple like that. And, you come back out and you've got like 25 cents. So you are totally ahead 25 cents. Except, you used up $1.50 worth of lemons and sugar.
Sugar's very expensive.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And you had to buy the plate, the cups, and you had to, stand out and make your labor time out on the street.
right. So it's really, that's what I was envisioning is just looking at this because, yeah, and this is not something I'm saying, let's jump right on this tomorrow. I'm obviously not saying that.
Well, I think if Jenny could look at the cost versus expense part of that equation, there are others in the city, such as yourself and the people in charge of managing for water quality, not profit, who could chime in on that piece of it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think the direction then to Jenny would be that accountant's viewpoint of cost and expense.
Yeah.
And do they balance, or
Yeah.
is there, I hate to say profit, but is there net income worth the expense of it?
Yeah. It's, if we have staff who we are paying permanent staff to oversee, what percentage of their workday is composed of planning for dealing with the upcoming or the recently past harvest.
Mhm.
But I personally would like to move on from this.
Yep.
But if that's okay.
Yeah.
All right. Can I just say small and attractive assets because it's like sort of a highlight of my year?
Say what? Oh,
I
small.
enjoy saying
attractive.
small and attractive assets. I don't know. It always seems like diamonds that are sewed into the hem of your
Yeah.
coat. Have there been any changes on fixed assets and small and attractive assets since the last time we discussed this?
I don't think on the small and attractive assets. No.
Well, is the asset manager position still vacant?
I don't know.
Because we postponed this because we didn't have an asset man.
Right.
Yeah, I think we have a new asset manager.
Christine, do you? We do?
Can I get a name?
Okay, good.
Christine, did you say something?
I said, I believe we do have an asset
Yeah,
manager.
I don't remember the person's name.
But I have to get a name.
That'd be good. Then
Uh,
maybe we could pick that up as well at some point.
Well,
Yeah.
usually you give the person time to get situated. So maybe something for next year.
Or later this year, depending on when they were hired.
Okay. So we'll postpone that one for now.
Mhm.
Okay. We'll carry on with the postponing. Let the postponing continue.
Review again.
The B&O tax reporting compliance. Isn't DCD doing that?
I think that
You see in the far right column,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like, yes. Remove it
I
from
think that
your-
should be removed from our work plan is really what I think.
Okay.
I agree.
Sounds good to me. Christine, make it so, number one.
Oh, so it's the evaluate B&O tax reporting compliance.
Yeah.
Okay.
Audit, credit transaction and purchase order controls. Okay, this
Boy.
is out of my sphere.
Well, this is the biweekly checks and claims. Doesn't council approve those checks at every meeting? I mean,
We approve them twice.
Approve.
Yeah, we approve them twice a month, but I certainly don't have the expertise to go through the entire check register and determine the effectiveness of the central purchasing policy. What was how did this one land on the work plan?
oh, this is storage.
I think
I
it's
could-
another one that's just been on there a long time. And, you know, a similar audit could be done for just about any policy that the city has. So that's really what it is that there was a policy, someone said maybe we should audit it, and so it landed on the work plan. I don't think there was any specific occurrence that led to this being on the work plan. It's something that perhaps is looked at by the state auditor's office periodically. I'm not sure on that, but it's the type of thing that they would look at. There.
Okay.
I feel like there's pretty tight controls over that, given that council at least nominally looks at this stuff and says that seems about right, or
I really can't say, but I would say that in general, something that people do over and over repeatedly is the thing they pay the least attention
well,
to.
that's true.
So that's all I have to contribute. Yeah, Christine.
I can say as staff that about a month ago, this office started doing random samples, at least 5 transactions across departments, just seeing what documentation's there. Is the right account being charged, that kind of thing, or the right approvals there?
Oh,
So
good.
we are doing, as you know, a long time ago, it was a regular thing, but we're starting to look at that again.
Good.
And just comparing, some departments, like, wow, they write a book, others it's very slim, but just making sure that it's, is there info on the vendor and all of that?
Yeah.
Being
Good.
looked at it, yeah.
Excellent. Yeah, because it is an area that could be ripe for plucking by someone unscrupulous if those kinds of controls aren't in place. But if you're doing random checks, then that's great.
Yeah, that is great.
Yeah, and I can say
Christine.
too that,
People can't figure out what random means. Right. Go
yeah,
ahead.
the council department was also recently audited on some transactions, so I was subject to that. So
Uh-huh.
I got the other end of being on audit.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
All right.
I'm glad you passed.
So do we want to also remove that one?
I'm fine with removing it if staff is taking care of it.
Anyone?
Okay, we've got 3 for removal. Rosalind.
Yeah,
What do you
I'm fine with I'm fine with taking it off. I think what kind of hits me is along the random sample idea is, what are your primary revenue drivers in the city and how are you working to do like a risk-based regular routine audit of those types of things? And so is this one of those things that falls into that? If you spend $25 million on X, then or how often are you looking at X? Because that's a high revenue area.
Okay, I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah, I don't think you should actually have an answer right off the top of your head, but that's kind of where, these things are the kinds of things that are, they're great checks to see how things are going, and those are the right types of things for you to be doing, but I don't know how you stratify where you focus your efforts. I do, we bring up a lot of things that are like, well, I heard this thing and let's add it to the plan. And those are always good. But then there should also be another lens of like, what are regular and routine activities and how are we making sure that we look at those things somewhat regular? Like cash audits is another example of that. Cash audits are great. It's an area ripe for fraud. It's an area that you want to look at regularly. But the places where you're getting your bigger revenues are some of those areas I think you probably want to fund more intently. So I don't really have an answer either, but it's just a
And
thought.
honestly, that would be things like property tax, sales tax, B&O tax, although that's getting smaller and smaller every year, and then parking revenue, right? Parking and traffic enforcement.
property tax.
Yeah, but I said property
You
tax.
did.
Property tax, sales tax, and B&O, I think are our big revenue generators. So,
I mean, even if you just took the top, 5 or 6 revenue generators and created a long-term plan and said, we're going to look at 1 or 2 of these a year, or, then you have an audit cycle where every 6 years or every 3 years you're going through and looking back at them again, or what are your highest activities now? Something like that.
Property rental. I mean, right, like all of the parking lots that we own downtown.
Yeah.
We must be getting some revenue from this as well.
I think.
I think perhaps we are. Okay.
That's a good idea.
That's really a good idea. Jenny, what do you think?
Well, I think that the sales tax and property tax is actually distributed by the state.
That's right. That's right.
So we did a big look at revenue a few years ago. I can't say
That's right.
then, but yeah, I didn't think there was. I mean, it just goes straight from the state to our city coffers. So I don't know if
Probably,
there's
probably
really a
wouldn't need
lot
to look
of-
at those.
What's that?
Because you probably wouldn't need to look at those.
Right.
The state would audit those regularly.
Right.
Yep.
And I don't know that we even have any ability to audit those.
I don't think we do. I think, if I recall, when we tried to look into it before, it was virtually impossible because of the complexities of how they're collected and then dispersed.
We looked at utility tax in 2020,
Yeah,
Well, sales
sales
tax
tax
is
in 2022.
yeah. That's
sales tax is remitted directly to the state, and then the
Yep.
state funnels it back out to the local jurisdictions.
exactly.
Same property taxes, even the B&O tax. I think even our local B&O tax maybe gets that we get it redistributed. I can't remember for sure on the local B&O tax.
Okay.
So I've always felt that our high risk areas are like where we have our third party vendors, Gold Mountain Golf Course, and I mean, not that they specifically, but just typically a third party vendor is a place that can have more risk associated with it.
You audited the gift shop there, did you not?
Oh, yeah.
We looked at the inventory of the gift shop.
Okay.
Yeah. I
So,
thought it was a pretty fruitful audit, actually. I
Yes, it was.
it was the most important one ever, but I thought it was a pretty fruitful audit. You know, there were some weaknesses there, and
Didn't we also look at Columbia Hospitality and the conference center contract and stuff too, or did we just talk about that?
I don't remember specifically what we've done. I'd have to go back and look. It's been a while since we did anything over there.
Yeah,
I mean,
so
even-
maybe there's an opportunity to revisit those.
I think that their contract is expiring at the end of this year. Anna, would you know, or?
we know about their contract expiring when it is put in front of us.
Well, we've got a contracts manager, do we not?
Yeah.
So Melinda Monroe would know that. I'm trying to just stop talking because so many of you know more than I.
I'm looking at the financial statements, the end 2022, and just looking at the revenues and got program revenues and of course grants, which those are usually temporary anyway.
Yeah, and they're pretty tightly controlled, generally.
And property taxes taxes, sales tax, which we talked about. Business taxes sounds like they would be in your realm. Utility taxes, you said you audited in 2020. Is that what you said, Christine?
2022.
Christie,
Oh, 2022.
utility taxes?
Yeah.
Okay.
And then
Well, that
there
was
is
through a specific lens. It wasn't,
broad scale.
it wasn't really an audit of the tax. I'm trying to remember specifically. They, it was looking at the history of the utility tax, and I'm just trying to remember as I'm going here,
A pilot.
how it grew and grew and grew, and a certain piece of it was supposed to be temporary, and it remains. So it was about that. It wasn't really an audit of the tax.
And then the majority is just program revenues for charges of services, which appear to be, they call it business type activities. So I'm assuming that that's the golf course or some other enterprise fund.
Do we get a substantial income from our planning department too, right?
I don't know.
A permit, basically.
Permit revenue.
Yeah, permit
Permit
revenues, well, permit revenues went through the roof in 2020, 2021, 2022.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't heard anything, like the mayor was really happy to stun us with these giant figures. But so now I'm assuming that they have,
Leveled off.
that they have considerably leveled up.
Well, you had almost $11 million in the governmental activities category versus the business type activities, which is 46 million.
Oh, okay.
And the business type would be the golf course, and then internal services, charging for services, almost 11 million. This is in 2022. Well,
So
it may be
internal services would sound like permits to me.
yeah,
I don't know what
I don't
internal
know.
services means in this context.
it's not internal, it's charges for services.
Okay,
Oh, okay.
so like when finance charges public works, for example, for issues to do with water billing, would that be an example of that?
Those are interdepartmental
Possibly.
charts, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, Rosalind, would you be interested in reviewing this and sending us like a summary of here's some stuff that you might really want to look at?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Oh boy. Okay.
Random
Sorry,
thoughts by Rosalind. That's what we'll call it.
The Carillion is playing my favorite things outside our door, which is unexpected in the extreme. Okay, that would be great. I have, I know this is unprofessional, Jenny, but I really love that print. I have something that I spoke to council about as a possible addition to the work plan, and over 2/3 of council was interested in bringing this to you, not making you, but because we can't do that, because council can't do that, but this is something we wanted to bring to the audit committee. And I just asked them about it first because
Okay, what is it?
I thought it would be more persuasive. So the water division is expanding its reach, literally delivering water to more and more customers as time goes by. And then people who live outside Bremerton city limits, come back, Marlon.
Oh dear.
I'm here.
Okay. Um, so people who live outside Bremerton city limits pay 150% of what people inside Bremerton pay, right? So they pay 1.5 times as much. Yet when really large projects like we are now having to retrofit for manganese in one of our wells. That's quite a big project. We are replacing several wells, which is quite a big project. Those projects fall on, they're paid for by residents of Bremerton.
Oh, instead of the users of the water.
Yeah. So we were trying to understand this, and so I am pitching this to you, the audit, to try to figure out. Like it seems to me that we might well be in over our shoes, which I realize is not an accounting phrase. That
Over skis.
over our skis. I knew there was a better phrase. Thank you. And it's the water division is continually seeking customers and sending water to new customers. But is this making sense? Because, for example, the manganese was found in a well that half of the people it serves, I think half, a large proportion of the people it serves live outside the city of Bremerton. Is that making sense? Those people will not be bearing the costs.
Except maybe in an ancillary way they are in the premium that they pay for the water.
Yeah.
I guess that'd be the question to look
Yes.
at is, does the premium being paid by non-city of Bremerton residents
Yeah.
cover the additional costs?
Right.
Or are those costs being borne unfairly strictly by city residents?
Yes.
Is that a good way to say that?
It's a much better way than what I was getting at. So thank you very much.
Does that make sense, Jenny?
Yeah, and this made sense to quite a few members of council. Because it's recently we've just been getting hit with really expensive repairs to our water system. And since leaks don't heal themselves and wells don't, magically renew themselves, this seems likely to continue. So anyhow, this is a project that I am pitching to the audit committee. Is this something you would like to pursue?
Sounds pretty important to me. I'm for it.
It does. It sounds good to me too. I just think about how much we pay. It's like, it feels like, it's not quite true, but it feels like half my water bill is sewer because of the fiasco from 25 years ago of our sewer plant. And we're still paying for it. So if we don't address something like this in an equitable way, city residents could be seeing our rates go up even more.
Yeah.
And
I mean, and
in fact, I looked at my water bill the other day because it seems like we didn't used to pay that much. And I found an old calculation, and sure enough, we're paying twice as much as we used to for water
yeah,
20 years ago.
yeah.
So it's doubled. And that's crazy.
And I'm just going to add from a field that I do know a little bit about, that requirements for stormwater and wastewater treatment and discharging into the national pollution discharge something permits. All of those regulations have tightened. And
Yes.
There's a reason that Chancellor Thune's the stormwater division has increased because there's a lot more responsibility for stormwater being placed on cities. So I'm just going to add that.
Yeah, no, that
But-
makes sense.
Yeah, it takes a long time to pay for major things like,
Mhm.
having your sewer.
Fail.
Anna, where does the,
There you go. You are really a mastery of euphemism.
Yeah. You were saying, Jenny?
Anna, where does the expense of stormwater roll up into? I mean, how does the city recoup that? So, like, I don't live in the city, but I pay a sewer bill and I pay a water bill, but I don't pay a stormwater bill, and I don't think anyone in the city of Bremerton does either. Is it something that's captured in the sewer bill?
It's captured in the utility bill. And in fact, there is a little chart. I don't have my bill in front of me, but there is a little chart that Mike Riley will be happy to pull out and show you, or shown to us many a time.
Yeah.
That the stormwater utility tax is perfectly in line with other neighboring jurisdictions. Not just the water, but the stormwater as well. Wastewater, I don't know. I haven't investigated that.
So where does the stormwater tax, is that what pays for the stormwater department?
A lot of what pays for the stormwater is having Chancellor Thum on staff, in my personal opinion, because he is a demon getter of grants. He really excels at getting grants for that. He just presented a grant that we, the city, are paying 70,000, and the remaining, I think, 500,000. Is that correct, Christine? Do you remember? To restore fish habitat, which is, we're sort of required to do that, but we are paying 70,000, and Chance and the Squamish tribe got 500,000 in grants. So that's the main source of what we're doing, to my knowledge.
Well, this sounds like a good thing to add if we can get it 16, maybe get a draft that we can review either outside the meeting, but
Okay.
like in an email form to say that looks right, or you can say, yeah, this is what I intended.
Yeah,
And we can add it.
I'm trying to capture that, but is it a cost analysis, water sewer services?
no, we're just looking at the water.
Just water.
Just
Water for city and non-city residents.
Yep.
Yeah. And compare that to the large capital investments we have been making over the past few years.
Basically, it's to see is there parity. Non-city residents pay more for their water than city residents do, but city residents get fees added in, assessments basically added in, and there's another project that's done.
Yeah.
That isn't added to non-city residents.
Right.
So do they balance out?
Is charging 150% of Bremerton rates
Enough.
to cover these really large capital investments?
We want to make sure they're not being borne unduly by city.
Well, we don't put a line item on the city residents' bill for the retrofit for the manganese.
Yeah.
It's just
No, we wouldn't do that. Honestly, I am not certain how this, if it is a line item, but for example, we have to fix the manganese, right? We don't have to make a multimodal lane along 6th Street. So in the nature of things that we have to do, we'll take precedence over things that we'd really like to. Is that making sense?
Yeah, I'm just thinking, I mean, I haven't looked at how we develop our water rates. But I would think that we look at what our total costs are, including something for the capital projects and the repairs and maintenance, and then we say we have so many customers. And I mean, I know they have utility rate specialists that do a pretty complex calculation, I think, for it. But I'm just thinking that if the capital projects and all of the maintenance type things are put into the water rate, that if that's how it's developed, it seems like it would be paid for by all of the customers. I mean, I'll take a look at it, but that's just my thoughts off the top of my head.
Okay. All right, what can we do to help?
Well, I guess it will depend on when we start this project. I guess that would be, is it next up after?
So basically, the requirement for us is to better define this and to better determine that it is not already being looked at by some utility specialist. Is that correct?
Well, I'm not suggesting that it's being looked at by utility specialists. I'm just saying that I know that they've had utility rate specialists come in. I don't know.
Okay.
It's kind of when I first started. I don't remember exactly what they were doing. I just remember going, oh, I didn't know there's a utility rate specialist.
Yeah, so that'd be maybe the first place to look, right?
Okay.
Well,
To
it would
see
be looking to see what goes into that calculation, you know, if it, or just talking to you know, Tom or his people,
Or Mike.
perhaps Mike. Yeah, he's always a good resource.
Okay.
Yeah, and look to see how those rates are developed. You know, it may be that they're paying a portion of those capital repairs. You know, it just might not be. I mean,
Okay.
and we would want to know what that portion is, I guess, and then the discussion comes from there. You know, do people think
And
it's
I think,
a fair amount
I think,
or not?
yeah, the key is it fair, are city residents being unduly burdened
Yeah.
by
So I
it?
guess I come up with the numbers, and then you decide whether it's fair.
Yeah,
Well, I mean,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
I mean,
Yep.
I think that's more the council role, not.
Yeah.
Okay. Well,
Yeah.
I will start out by sending a few emails on this topic, and to quote Jen Psaki, we will circle back next month.
There you go. Good. I like it.
Okay.
Yeah, sounds like a good project, Lana.
Pardon?
It sounds like a good project.
It does.
It would make me very, very happy to give you something that you would enjoy as a good project, Jenny.
I like the project I'm working on too, Anna.
Okay, great.
Also from you.
Well, you know, both of these are really, a majority of council wants this. So that always makes me feel like, you know, I'm not going out on a limb. Did we want to review the council goals?
It's 6:20 and I need to eat.
So the answer
So
would be no.
That's a no for me. The rest of you guys are free to work until 7 if you desire.
No, I'm starving to death. I had to testify earlier today, and that always makes me hungry. Is there anything for good of the order?
Oh, when's our next meeting?
The Monday, June 23rd? I'll be saying that in a minute as soon as I finish good of the order.
But do we not have we don't have a meeting in May?
We have Memorial Day holiday.
Oh, okay. So June 23rd, I will not be here. Just giving you advance notice.
Yeah. Do we want to try to have a special meeting in May? Do you feel that you'll have something to? I would like to have a brief meeting in May to circle back on some of these things. But I'm not asking anybody to sacrifice their Memorial Day weekend.
That's good.
Yeah. That's right. I want to get out of here with a whole skin. How's my availability on the third Monday is fine. Anybody else? Marwan, are you available the third Monday
Yeah,
in
I can
May?
make that happen.
Great.
Jenny, are you good? She's looking.
She's looking.
I have challenges.
I think I'm okay on that day.
All right.
Does that work for this room and time?
I have to cross-check to make sure that we will have coverage.
Okay.
So, there are some questions also if I'm even available, so
Okay.
there's that too.
Okay. Can we leave that ball in your court then
You're seeking a special meeting
on the
on the
19th?
19th,
Yeah.
5 p.m. And I'm hearing everyone would be able to attend.
Yes.
Well, we don't know on Jennifer.
Correct.
Well,
But she's not.
that's true, Auditor Sims.
At a point right now, we technically have a quorum available.
Yeah.
Okay.
That would be the requirement.
Okay.
All right.
I would just like to say that it is a pleasure and an education to be on this committee. Marwan, you bring up like something that you'd like to have investigated. Deborah and I have had many shots. So bring us something in May.
All right. I will do
Okay.
that.
All right.
Great.
Get us something to make a little more equity going on here.
Chew on.
Well, I may be told it's not under the purview of this committee, but we'll see.
You won't be the first time you've heard that though, will it?
We are having flashcards made that say, sadly, that is not within the purview of the office. Or perhaps t-shirts.
There you
I'll
go.
find out if that's an allowable expense.
There you go.
Okay, if anyone has anything more for good of the order?
I
No?
think we're good.
Thank you.
The next audit committee chair reports to City Council will be during the May 14th study session. The next audit committee meeting will be on Monday, May 19th at 5 p.m.
Unless we hear otherwise,
Unless the sky falls.
or Christine's not available.
Well,
That would be the sky fall.
well, no, I would delegate to you, Chair.
There you go.
You would be hosting the meeting.
I can do that.
Good.
And
Okay.
therefore, with this hammer entrusted unto me,